Sydney to Ho Chi Minh City, breaking down all things One Championship. This is The One Report with your host, the local Asian, John Hyon Ko.
The One Report. This is the first episode. We got 3 of MMA's media entities in Asia coming together for this podcast concentrated on one championship. We got the BodyLockMMA.com, RamenChoco.com, and we are coming together to discuss big things that's happening in one championship. First, I'd like to introduce Jake Nichols. He's the editor-in-chief of the BodyLockMMA.com. What's going on, Jake?
Yeah, not much. I'm surprised I didn't get the intro that I was promised, but that's a little bit disappointing. So we'll just keep on moving on from there.
For sure. And the other person on the other end is Wombat Jones. He's over there in Australia fighting kangaroos. What's happening?
Mate, doing my best to, just avoid the jabs from the kangaroos. Loving life. Just got back from Singapore. What's going on over there in South Korea, big fella?
Nothing. We're just, living under the terror of North Korea, pointing missiles at us and everything, so it's all good.
And you're a grok.
Standard day-to-day life.
All right, so the past weekend, Singapore, it was what is it? It was named, or it was, promoted as the biggest one championship event in history with Unstoppable Dreams, which is kind of a funny title because Angela Lee's nickname is the Unstoppable, I believe, which is kind of a weird thing, but it is what it is. Now, moving forward, Angela Lee Mei Yamaguchi was saying in the interview that Angela Lee is moving up a weight class. What do you think about this, Jake?
I love it. I think it's overdue. I think we all kind of saw it coming as well. She is quite big for that division, and it's funny you used the word transparency just before. I think that one championship could use a lot of transparency when it comes to the weigh-ins. I think that's what we need to see. We need to see some proof that people are making weight. Not to criticize anyone, but there wouldn't be this conversation if we could see what's going on behind the scenes all the time. I look forward to her moving up because there's some big fights for her there, I think, especially. I don't know. I'm just excited to see because I think there's no one else left for her to fight in the atomweight division at one championship. There's no one there. And I think Mei Yamaguchi is way too small for that division as well. And it's the smallest division in one. So if Angela moves up, she's going to have some fresh faces to fight. I can't wait to watch it because she is. I saw that Ariel Helwani tweeted this the other day, and I looked at it and I had to agree. He said that Angela Lee is the face of one championship. And I can't argue against that. I think she is the most popular worldwide right now. I think the double champ Martin Nguyen hasn't pushed into the United States as much as we were all probably hoping for him to. Angela Lee is the one that everyone knows. So I look forward to her going up and fighting some bigger and stronger women in the One Championships roster.
Well, let's be real about Angela Lee. If you are a female fighter, I think it's easier to get the fans behind you compared to a male fighter, in my opinion, right? Especially Angela Lee has the look, she's young. She has proven to be a decent fighter. I don't know if she's like the elite fighter that people want to pump her up to be as, because if you looked at her performance, yes, Mei Yamaguchi lost she beat Mei Yamaguchi, but did she look any better than she did when they first fought? It doesn't really seem like it. It doesn't seem like she has become better. It just seems like she's just the same fighter. She kind of almost just out-muscled Mei Yamaguchi throughout that fight. But, she is the face. You're right. She is the face of one championship. Wombat, what do you think about her? Who can she fight if she does move up a weight class? Do you got any names in your mind?
Well, I really don't. In any event, I mean, women's MMA on a whole is still developing. I love it. It's actually my favorite part of the sport now. So to see what Angela does, and actually when I interviewed her in Kuala Lumpur when I was out there with Reece McLaren, And I actually mentioned to her about Martin, how he's getting extra belts and all that, and if she would be interested in one day. And she sort of smiled and smirked and said, well, yeah, I would be. So it doesn't shock me to see that that's going to happen. And to be honest, they'll create any division wherever she wants to go in whatever weight class that is. So the opponent doesn't matter. It's kind of a Conor McGregor situation there, especially if they load her up in Singapore all the time. So look, man, I love watching a fight. I think she's a classy chick. She's beautiful. You know, she gets on social media and shares her personality. You know, she's happily in love now, and it's all sort of all back on track for her. And don't forget that it wasn't that long ago that she actually had a near fatal car accident, and this is her first fight back. So I know you're saying that, you know, she hasn't improved and whatnot, which may, and it kind of did look like the case. That's no shock to me. You know, that's maybe a little bit of ring rust with a little bit of, you know, emotion. Her brother just lost a couple of fights earlier, which I'm not sure if you've seen on the broadcast or not, but she was in tears, man. You know, it actually took, you know, a minute or two for her to get inside of the cage. So I can't imagine what that would have been like to deal with. So yeah, there's a little bit more to the story than what it is, but I'm more than happy to watch her fight wherever she fights, man.
Yeah, one thing that was kind of weird also is she was in the corner when her brother was fighting, and she was going to fight maybe 20 minutes later, which is kind of odd for somebody that is having probably the biggest fight of her career coming. Was that a good idea? Who knows if it was a good idea or not, but, you know, because she won. But if she didn't win, people could look back on that and be like, hey, you know, she should have been in the corner of her brother, but who cares about those things? Mei Yamaguchi. Jake, what does Mei Yamaguchi do? Does she stay? Who does she fight? Because she's pretty much fought everybody in the division too.
Good question. I actually honestly have no idea who she should fight next. That's what it comes down to. I'd like to see her keep fighting in that division because she's exciting to watch. And I think if she's matched up against someone who isn't Angela Lee, we're all going to be in for a treat. I'm excited to watch whoever she's up against. I was thinking about it today, and Angela Lee's last opponent, Estela Nunez, hasn't fought since she met Angela Lee. Not sure if they're planning on bringing her back or what's the case there. Maybe an opponent for Mei Yamaguchi.
Maybe, because didn't Estela Nunez beat Mei Yamaguchi? I think she did. She did beat Mei Yamaguchi. After Angela Lee beat her, she came back, fought Estela Nunez. Nunez beat her by unanimous decision. So that rematch is something that they could put together as something, you know, for Japan. Because, you know, they said that they were going to go to Japan. They have a bunch of Japanese fighters. They have a Japanese champion. I'm just wondering, like, when are they going to get into Japan? It's very... You know, they got Shinya Aoki, we're going to talk about later. When are they going to get in there? When are they going to put their foot down in Japan? It's like, come on, every year you say you're going to go, but you don't go, which is odd to me. But anyways, that's another issue.
Japan either, right?
Huh?
It's not just Japan. It's South Korea and Vietnam, everywhere. They keep hinting at it, but it hasn't happened yet. So I want to see it. I want to see him branch out a little bit further, but we've got to wait for the right chance, I guess. And I know that they are hard markets to tap into. They're just waiting for the right opportunity. But at the same time, I wish they didn't release the schedule well in advance and then have to reschedule everything. But oh well.
Look, I don't have a lot of bad things to say about One Championship, but when it comes to their scheduling and all that sort of thing, it is a little frustrating, especially when you're in media, you're trying to work out flights and accommodation and all that sort of thing. And next minute, you know, the cards are getting pulled from underneath you. So it'd be good to see if they can sort of sort that shit out, especially for us guys anyway.
To be fair, from what I heard from my sources, you know, throughout the countries and in the media and stuff like that, is there are entities in those countries that do not want One Championship to come in and do an event, because that takes away from their revenue. That takes away from their sponsorships or whatever is funneling money towards them. So it's understandable that they announce it and they want to go there, and maybe the preliminary stages have passed, but then when it's time to, you know, lock and load and put it through, it just doesn't happen. So who knows? I hope it does happen. You know what I mean? Like, who doesn't hope? Everybody wants to go to a new country and, and do an event. At least they got into China, which is very hard because the UFC took forever to do that.
Yeah, and that only goes down in about 4 weeks' time. So, and they released it, I believe, on the night of the fights. On the weekend, they released that it's going to be the Chinese champ and Marias also defending his belt. So it's good. They need to clear that division out as well with the interim and with Reece McLaren winning and all that sort of thing. So hopefully we'll see the rest of the card coming out in the next week or two.
What's funny about that is during the broadcast, they announced it, in a commercial that these two title fights were going to happen. And, when you go on Twitter, whenever they announce fights during a broadcast, Twitter goes nuts. People are like, oh, they just announced this title fight's happening here. But it was crickets, man. It was crickets on Twitter when they announced it. Nobody even noticed. Like, I'm the only one that posted something on there like, hey, this champion versus champion thing, this is what I was talking about. And everybody's like, silence. There was nothing there. It seems like they're not interested in that. And I think the reason why is, like Wombat said, is we need to clear out that division, make a clear-cut champion, and let that ride. You know what I mean? Because you still got Kairat hanging out somewhere, and I think that would be a good fight for Reece. Reece is sitting on the sidelines. I'm pretty sure he wants to fight, right?
He definitely wants to fight.
Yeah, why don't you put Reece against Kairat on that card? Who wins that fight fights the winner of the unification bout. I think that's a good idea. One championship. If you are listening, I hope you are. Probably not because you hate us, but but I think that's a good fight to put together. I think Kairat's sitting around waiting for a fight too. So yeah, but we're gonna talk about that card in a couple of weeks.
Just before you go, I want to jump in, John, if you don't mind. I want to say I feel bad for Reece because he was scheduled for that championship fight. Marias got injured, so he missed out on the title fight. Ended up facing one of the Super Brothers in the main event. So not bad. He still got the main event, but now he misses out on his title chance through no fault of his own. I feel quite bad for Reece McLaren right now. He's a bit unfortunate.
Oh, we all do. We all feel bad for Reece. The turn of events, because remember, yes, he was supposed to fight. Even before that, I heard rumors that he was supposed to fight Gehe.
No, he was it was actually originally he was supposed to fight Marias, and I'm not sure if this is insider knowledge or not with my sources, but he was supposed to fight Marias in Manila, January 26th, Australia Day. So I was getting all excited to spend Australia Day over there. And I believe Marias didn't accept the fight or was injured or something along those lines. So that's when they did the interim belt. Then moved down to Kuala Lumpur. They made Reece versus Marias, and then he pulled out again with an injury. So it'll be good to see if Marias wins. We actually get to see this matchup or not.
I don't know. It sounds like someone's ducking and dodging or something's happening. Something's going on. But yeah, they're gonna have to put those together, and hopefully Reece gets his shot. But that division, no matter what, I think it can go for the next few years with those four guys fighting each other in a circle, because some of them haven't fought each other yet. Like Reece hasn't fought Gehe. He hasn't fought Kairat. Those guys could move up and get title shots automatically because they're in that top 5 rotation. So, it's exciting, good matchups right there. But we'll talk about that, in the next episode.
You're listening to the One Report.
Christian Lee got his rematch with Martin Nguyen. I actually interviewed both these fighters before they, took to the cage. And Christian told me that he was going to go in there and take his time, pick Martin apart, and then finish him. And he almost finished him in the first round by submission. That was like pretty close, I believe. Martin, he's good at getting out of submissions. You never seen him get finished. So, well, he did get finished by what's his name? Gafarov. But yeah, he's pretty good. I think he learned his lesson from that fight to where his submission defense is on another level. But the rest of the fight was just complete domination by Martin on the feet. And he couldn't do nothing because Christian was running away from him the whole fight. And what is it? Yuji Shamada, That guy, he gives him both yellow cards for stalling, which doesn't make any sense when Martin has Christian with his back against the cage the whole time running away. Yeah, it was weird. It was a weird night. Was it a split decision win, Jake?
No way. It wasn't a split decision. I was mad about that. When you know that there's a split decision coming, and like, you hear the announcer say, "Oh," and one judge gives, I'm like, "Oh man, what's going on here?" That was one of the worst moments I've ever. I felt bad for Martin. We're all looking at Martin, and you can see him just like, "Oh crap, what's going on? Like this shouldn't be happening." But I'm glad you pointed out the double yellow card thing. That is the worst idea I've ever heard. What's the point of giving out 2 yellow cards to people who are for timidity? Not to even point out if one person is evading the combat or not, it doesn't actually serve any purpose, I believe, because I don't know, like what does that actually do? And I felt like Yuji Shimada was actually too involved in this contest. He was like shouting at them right up in their ears. I think Martin was getting frustrated during that. Just give him a bit of space. It's a championship fight. Let him battle. Let him battle. Like, a lot of people hated it, and I want to come back. I sent a tweet out about 2 minutes before this fight started. I said, there is no way this fight can be bad, and I regretted it because it was quite an uneventful fight. I'm with you. I thought that Christian looked outstanding in that first round, no doubt about it. When he slammed Martin, I was like, wow, like I didn't see that coming. I thought, oh, I know Martin's defensive wrestling is very, very good. And then I thought he nearly subbed him as well. I was like, what's going on here? But then, as you said, the next 4 rounds were all Martin Nguyen. I don't think that Christian was running. I don't know about saying that. I don't agree with that. But I think that there was just a lot of respect between them both. He was waiting for his right moment, and Martin was giving him no good moment to shoot in for a takedown. Martin controlled it. Yeah, and I was getting a little bit angry seeing all the One Championship website saying it's a narrow decision victory and stuff like that. I'm a bit mad about this, and I don't know how Martin feels, but yeah, what do you guys think? Wombat, what do you think?
Well, listen, I think the only reason why they've said it's a narrow victory is because it was given a split decision and they're backing their judges. That's the only possible explanation that I can come up with, because I was lucky enough to be cage side again for it with the photographers. And if you go and have a look at that replay, you'll see my ugly blue shirt that I'm wearing. Oh, it's beautiful. Oh, I love it. But long story short, after the first round, which was very surprising to me as well, Christian come out on fire as he normally does. And the real surprising thing, and I think the reason why you were taken back a little bit when he dumped Martin down, was because Bibi couldn't even do that. You know what I mean? And Christian seemed to have relative ease early on in the first round in taking Martin down. However, did absolutely no damage to Martin while he was down there. Martin got up pretty quickly, and after that, didn't have any success, at all with the takedowns. And in fact, I think there was another takedown attempt in round 1 where you could see Martin's confidence go through the roof when he finally stuffed it. So, look, there's no way in hell that's a split decision. That was actually a very dominant performance by Martin Nguyen in a sort of uneventful fight. I can see what everyone's saying. The Singapore crowd was booing as well. And it's no fault of Martin's. It's really no fault of Christian's either. It was just a chess match. I mean, they're going for a world title. They've already fought each other once before. There's a little bit of animosity there. There's a little bit of respect there. And I think, a couple of punches landed early. The respect sort of carried its way through the whole fight. But the one thing that I will say about this is that I seen Christian after the fight at the hotel, and I think you might have even been able to see it on TV, because as soon as the fight finished, Christian started hobbling away. And back at the hotel, he actually needed a couple of people to hold him up and hobble to the elevators and that, because his leg was absolutely jacked up from the calf kicks Marty was throwing. And let me tell you, cage side, hearing them, man, they're landing hard. And I can tell you that his leg's going to be beaten up, for a week or two. They were fucking hard leg kicks, man. So, it was I thought a very dominant performance by the featherweight champ.
Yeah, Christian Lee, his approach in the first round was phenomenal, and he executed the takedown, and he got into mount pretty easily, in my opinion. And I was like, whoa. I was like, is this going to be a first round finish? Because that's what everybody expected. They expected a first round finish. Either it's going to be Christian or Martin. Martin's going to knock him out or Christian's going to sub him. That's what a lot of people was thinking. And it was kind of like coming true. And you're like, what the hell is going on? You know, is Martin going to get subbed? And he didn't get subbed. But Christian made the mistake of going away from that, going away from pressuring. You know, he kind of was being too submissive in a way, you know, in his approach in the round 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I don't know why he would be I don't know why he did that. I don't understand why go away from what's working. It's better for you to just go with what you have, pressure against the fence, go for those takedowns, take it to the ground. Because after that, it's just like he kind of did it. He kind of went for the takedowns, but not really, you know, as often, and he didn't pressure as much. And I think that's the reason why he lost his fight. And of course, on the flip side, Martin, he utilized that calf kick to perfection. You know, that calf kick slowed down Christian tremendously.
Well, that's your answer right there, John.
Yeah.
You know, that is exactly why he stopped shooting and all that sort of stuff. Is because I believe because of those leg kicks.
Yeah, I love the back and forth. One thing I wanted to point out about Yuji Shimada, he has these wristbands. If you look at the wristbands, one wristband is red and one wristband is blue, which is there's a fighter with blue tape on his gloves and then the fighter with red tape on his gloves. And whenever something happens, it seems like he points one of the wristbands at the fighter and yells out things, which is kind of odd to me. I'm like, what is going on? And he always yells, I think he's saying like, are you finished? Are you done? You want to quit? Even though there's no submission or nothing going on. Yes. The guy's just on top of him, like kind of punch him in the back of the head or in the side of the head. And he's like, you give up. And I think that if you're a judge and you don't really know that much about mixed martial arts, that can affect or that can sway your opinion of what's happening in that fight. You know what I mean? Like, oh, that guy almost lost the fight because the ref was asking him, you know, are you finished? Do you want to quit? Which is not even close to being true. I think that affects a lot of it. And Yuji Shimada, man, I've never been a fan of his. So, you know, I could sit here and talk crazy about him and all the mistakes he's made in the past events. But I just wanted to point that out. Like, I don't understand why he's the only person that has these wristbands that are blue and white. I don't know what those things are for. We could start a big conspiracy theory on that and have another podcast called the Red and Blue Wristband Podcast. But it's weird, man. It is just weird. Now, Christian Lee, where does he go from here? In my opinion, I think that he should, of course, get some rest, come back and fight Emilio Urrutia. I think that is a perfect matchup for both these guys. It's like, they both come off losses from the top guys in the division. And I think it will be a good marker of like, where can these guys go from here? You know, where can Emilio go from this fight? Where can Christian go from this fight? And see what happens. Both those guys, they can stand and bang and they can get to the ground and submit, their opponent. So, I think they could put that fight together. What do you think, Jake? What do you think what does Christian do?
No, you've said it perfectly. I couldn't have said it better. I think the Honey Badger is the go-to fight for Christian Lee right now. Just give him some time off. And I think the Honey Badger needs some time off as well because he was mauled by Gafarov. Give him a little bit of a break. Give Lee a bit of a break. Send him back at it in 6 months and let's see what happens there. Because I think if Lee wins that one, he's in this tier where he's maybe below Gafarov, definitely below Nguyen, but he's better than anyone else in the division. And probably same goes for the Honey Badger. He was cleaning everyone else up, but he didn't stand a chance against Gafarov in the end. That's the matchup I want to see. You've called it perfectly.
I see it differently. I totally see it differently. I believe the fight that Christian Lee should have is the fight that he should have had this fight instead of the championship fight. And that is versus Gafarov. I think that is the fight for the number one contendership still. I think that Martin's going to go and either defend a belt or try and get another one or something. He's definitely going to stay active, and I don't believe it's going to be in featherweight. and there's no need for it to be either. So I firmly believe, with a little bit of rest and all that, you throw him up against Gafarov, and that sets up, sort of a. It's going to be hard to sort of put Christian up against him again, but like you boys said, I mean, who else is Martin going to fight apart from those two guys? So that's who I'd want to see anyway.
Well, now Martin, if we look at him, he said he was going to defend both of his titles. So he did defend the featherweight title. So logic would say that he's going to defend the lightweight title. Now, rumors have it that he will fight Aoki, who won earlier that night on this card later this year. These are rumors. This is not facts. So don't, come back and tell me like, oh, you're wrong and blah, blah. Okay, these are rumors. I've been hearing these rumors for a while. What do you think of this matchup, Jake, of Aoki versus Martin Nguyen?
In terms of the matchup, like, why not? I'd be all about seeing it, but it doesn't make any sense to me, that kind of fight, because lightweight's pretty stacked. There's a lot of guys who have been working their way up for a title shot, and I don't know if Aoki deserves one right now after the win against Yakev, but then again, like, what more does he have to do? Yakev beat Shannon Wiratchai, and Shannon was one of the top guys, and he was on the way to a title shot as well, and we have to remember that. So Shannon's out of the picture. You've got guys like Ev Ting hanging around there as well. He wants a title shot, I'm sure. So I don't know. I think there's better options right now at lightweight.
Well, Ev Ting was supposed to face Timothy Nasty Yukin. What was his name? Nasty.
Yeah, he
Nasty,
is so
Nasty,
good too.
Yeah, Nasty. His nickname is Nasty, man.
Yeah,
like,
he's certainly nasty.
They were supposed to fight each other for the interim title, but I guess something with Timothy it fell through. So Ev Ting is going to face Koji Ando in China. So that, like, Ev Ting is locked up, because that would be logical too. Ev Ting versus Martin Nguyen for a lightweight title. Wombat, what do you think? What's in your mind?
Mate, what's in my mind is this lightweight division is absolutely crazy, and it's starting to all come to a peak, and I'm loving it. And it's just kind of weird that we've got Marty over there, who's the king of the division, who's also the king of the featherweight division, because now we've got a lot of contenders starting to stack themselves up in lightweight. On the card also, we had, Folayon got a win, and I guess we might get into that a little bit later. Amir Khan got a win. Obviously Aoki as well. Look, to throw a little bit more fuel onto that rumor, I believe at some stage, and don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure that I did hear Martin in an interview say, and I can't believe it was one of my interviews or someone else's, that he would defend his belt versus Aoki. And I'm not sure when he might have said that. Maybe I'm getting that wrong, but it's possible. I don't see why not. And like you were saying, if they want to try and get into Japan finally, why not that fight? I mean, that makes sense. I hear lots of rumors. I'm hearing lots of things, but I'll keep my mouth shut. But I'm more than happy to see Aoki versus Nguyen.
Yeah, it's a big fight. They love to give Aoki title shots. If you noticed what has transpired in the past few years, Aoki got a welterweight title shot, and he's not even a welterweight. So, which is kind of one of the craziest things that has ever happened in the past 12 months. But Aoki's Aoki. He has the name. I think that's what maybe Martin is chasing after, because Martin wants big fights. Big fights, you need big names, and Aoki's that type of fighter in the lightweight division. He is the biggest name if you think about it, because Martin has already beat Foyolong, who and in his hometown slept him, put him into Mars, and you can't give him a rematch after that. That's just that's not gonna happen. Foyolong needs to win a few more fights.
Talking about all things one championship, it's John, Jake, and Wombat.
Let's go talk about some of the other fights, the lightweight fights earlier that night in Singapore. Let's talk about Amir Khan. He faced let me see,
Song Jong Lee,
the young Korean submissions. He's not even young. He's just
Song Jong Lee.
Yeah, Song Jong Lee. He's one of the 10th Planet guys. And you noticed that he was one of the 10th Planet guys, because he was rolling around the cage like he was in bed with his girlfriend on Sunday morning, right? So Amir Khan, I thought that this matchup, when it was announced, that it was just like a setup fight for Amir Khan, because he lost his last fight and then he needed to gain some momentum. So, and he's a young star for Singapore. Give him this fight, and basically what happened is what I thought was going to happen. He was just going to punch the dude with punches and kicks, and that's what. But he kind of looked off at the same time. If you think about it, Amir Khan didn't look impressive. Not as impressive as I thought he would, because he has the most knockouts in one championship, history. Jake, what do you think about Amir Khan's performance?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Amir Khan, and I can't put my finger on why. I just like his style. I like the way he approaches every fight. He's got this pretty crisp boxing as part of his game. His jab was lightning fast all night, and he was tagging up the nose. He can keep his range when he wants to as well. He did that against Adrian Pang. He's got all the tools to be really good, but I feel like, as you said, he's still a little bit missing. I'm not sure what it is, but as he continues to develop, I mean, he's only 23 years old. Like much of the One Championship roster, they're all quite young. As he continues to, he trains hard as well. If he keeps training a couple more years down the line, he's going to be even more well-rounded than he already is. The weird take out of that fight for me was that, actually there's two. The fight was super entertaining just because of Sung Jong Lee. He was just straight up brawling, didn't care, walked forward with his chin up. No defense either. Didn't want to protect his face. That's fine because it makes it pretty fun for the fans. But I was surprised that Amir Khan couldn't put him away because his chin was out there for everyone to see. And yeah, he was tagging him, but it looked like he didn't have enough power to stop him, especially with some of the shots he was landing in the first round. I was surprised that there wasn't as much power as I was expecting there.
Wombat, you were there, live. Does Amir Khan have the support of the Singaporeans?
Look, to be honest, the Singaporean crowd, to me, is a very tough crowd. I think they're there to see fights. And unless you're really, fighting, they're not too keen. Doesn't matter where you're from, I think. So that's kind of what I was experiencing there. There were times when he was landing when they kind of got behind him. But no, I didn't get the sense at all that, he was the hometown, crowd favorite where, in Thailand with a Wirachai, for argument's sake, the crowd goes absolutely bananas when he walks down the ramp. So,
literally,
so no, yeah, exactly. So
they're throwing bananas.
So yeah, mate, I honestly don't think they are that behind him. I mean, as much as what you can say that they're not, I mean, they were still behind him, so to speak. So, but to answer your question, no, I think he needs to do a little bit more. You were saying keeping his range against Adrian Pang. I believe that he lost that fight. I think that was a terrible decision. I think Pang won that fight pretty convincingly, actually. No, not really. For very similar reasons to the Martin and the Christian fight that we've seen. I mean, it's very hard for you to win a fight if you're always, doing circles around the outside. I mean, you can talk about outpointing and that, but once again, I do say that I kind of do judge on damage. So that's kind of my bias, I guess. But look, man, Amir Khan, he's got a massive future. Like you said, he's only 23 years old. And I can see him being a massive star in Singapore. So I'm not writing him off yet, that's for damn sure. And as he creeps higher and higher up on the cards as well, and he gets the wins behind him, I think that's when the crowd will as well.
Well, the match to make is him versus, stylistically and in the rankings of the lightweight division, him and Edward Furlong would be dynamite. They both come off wins, and they're both strikers. They should just put that on the next Manila card, because the next Manila card is coming up, I think, in July.
27th of July, I think it is.
Yeah, 27th of July. I think they could possibly be a co-main event. I'm pretty sure they're still putting that, like One Championship does. They're just always putting together cards on the last minute. So we'll see what happens with that, but that would be fireworks. Who do you think Amir Khan should fight next, though? Other than Edward Furlong, Jake?
Yeah, I want to see the Shannon Wiratchai rematch. That happened 3 or 4 years ago, I believe. Amir Khan was very young at the time, and Wiratchai just got over the line in what was a pretty close fight. These two have just met since then. They haven't really crossed paths, but they've always been towards the top third of the division, if you would say. And then it looked like Wiratchai was going to beat him to the title shot. They were both on a streak at the time. Obviously, Amir Khan lost and Wiratchai lost. So I think it's time to put these two up against each other. That's a fight I really want to see because we have to factor Shannon into these conversations as well because he's another guy that hangs around this division and needs a fight. I'd like to see that. Yeah.
I'll tell you exactly what I think is going to happen. I think Aoki will fight Wiratchai. And I think that'll happen probably in the Thailand card. That's what I'm thinking. I think it's a great shout that Followgong fights Khan. I think that'd be fantastic in the Manila card, like you said, as a co-main. That's where my head's at.
Yeah, Bangkok, Ancient Honor, August 11th. They're going to have a card there. So, yes.
How good's the guy going who comes up with these names? Because you're going to run out. Eventually, you're running out.
That's what I think.
Who is this
I hope this guy's getting paid. Actually,
I want to interview this guy. Let's get that guy on the show.
Who is he?
Spirit of a Warrior. Then you got Battle of the Heavens, which is crazy if you're religious.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah. Pursuit of Power. Then Reign of Kings. Ancient Honor. Beyond the Horizon. Pursuit of Greatness. It just sounds like the names of like some Kung Fu Chronicles or something like that. Like somebody's like what's that old TV show with David Carradine?
Kung Fu.
Huh?
Kung Fu. That's
Kung Fu. It's like every episode of Kung Fu. They must have gotten these names from this. But yeah, those are some great matchups. You know, Aoki versus Wen Shin, Amir Khan versus Foyalong. The lightweight division is stacked, man. Like these guys fighting each other, and most of them are pretty young. Amir Khan, Shannon, and you got Ev Ting, you got Kondo. He's a little bit up in age. Kondo's kind of like a very similar age as Aoki and Edward Foyalong. So you got a good mixture of guys in their 30s or in their 20s fighting each other and kind of starting to eliminate, who should not be in that top 5, which is, in my opinion, I think Aoki should not be in that top 5, man. It's just like, I don't see, him beating any of those other guys. If those guys could stay off the mat against Aoki loses all of those fights, in my opinion, which brings up that him fighting Martin Nguyen doesn't make any sense. Because if he can't get Martin Nguyen onto the ground, Martin Nguyen's going to fucking knock his head off, which is going to be terrible to watch. Because... Yeah. Especially for all those Aoki fans, because there's a lot of Aoki fans out there. They love that guy. I'm
going to throw in one more name into the mix before we go on lightweights and before you move on. There's one more name that I think you're going to have to look out for, and he's an absolute dark horse. And I could see him maybe challenging for the title maybe by the end of next year, and that's Gary Tonin. So don't forget about him either.
Oh, my God. Don't let me get started. Gary Tonin is a young Aoki. What the hell are you talking about?
I don't know, baby.
One knockout win, and people are talking about Gary Tonin is going to be a contender, man. Next episode, we're going to have to get a lightweight from One Championship on the show that has strong opinions, and we're going to ask him about Gary Tonin to see, like, should Gary Tonin get a title shot in 2019? Because, that could happen.
It could certainly happen. I mean, if he goes and wins his next 5 in a row, which should be by the end of next year, that'll make him 6-0 in One Championship. What? It's more than a possibility.
All right. Well, now it moves on to the.
I want to say one thing. Can you remember when Gary Tonin was signed and Chatri released a Facebook status, as he always does, and he said he wanted to put Gary Tonin up against Ben Askren? I'm like, what are you doing? You can't do that. That's one of the best in the world against Gary Tonin. Just let him get some experience. What the hell?
Gary Tonin's fighting at welterweight, right?
No, he's at light at the moment.
Yeah, but I think before he came along, I think there was rumors he was going to be in welterweight because I think that's where he's competed throughout his jiu-jitsu career. I think that's a guess, but
no, but don't forget in One Championship that lightweight is welterweight, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Of course, of course.
True.
Unless you're Martin. Unless you're Martin.
Then you're just
Lightweight.
fighting
Then lightweight.
whatever you wake up with.
You eat a couple berries and a bowl of cereal, and then you're at lightweight or a hamburger or whatever. But hey, Garrett. Speaking of Gary Tonin, another possible fight for Aoki would be Gary Tonin, but in an MMA fight though this time.
Well, this is why I said keep an eye out for that, because I believe that match will probably happen not too that far in the distant future. And I think when that happens, Gary's name gets up there, and that's when the push starts. So,
and the perfect card for this fight will be on November 9th, Singapore, Heart of the Lion. Do you get it?
oh,
Heart of the Lion.
you're on fire.
I am. Because, the events are, hey, I just want to give a suggestion. Can we stop having these names? Because, like, nobody remembers. Everybody gets the names wrong. Even the fighters, when I interview them, I ask them, okay, you're fighting on this event, and they don't even know the name of the event. They just know where the location is. They're like, I forgot who I was talking to, and they're like, yeah, one championship, it was supposed to be Unstoppable Dreams, but the fighter said Unbearable Dreams or something like that, and I was like, what?
Would you prefer they have numbers like the UFC, mate?
Yes,
I can't stand that either. I
can't
stand it.
Yeah, there's no right way to do it.
You could say the cities, but then the cities, if you keep going to the same city, then it gets confusing. So the numbers is the best to me. Just put the numbers on there. What you remembered all these long titles, and then most of these titles are all very similar to each other, don't you think?
Yeah, just one championship and whatever city they're in. I mean, Manila, they kind of is the city they travel to the most, and I think they're 5 times this year. So, you kind of forget about the last one before the next one anyway. So I don't think it's that much of a drama. Just one Manila.
For sure.
Need more One Championship news, interviews, and content? Then check out our Facebook page at The One Report.
Segment that we were going to do, or we are doing right now, is the prospects, right, for One Championship. Who One Champion should sign. And we're going to start with Wombat. Wombat, who do you have this week or this episode?
Well, for this episode, I've actually got an amateur, which is kind of weird. And I just released the interview that I did with him. I actually did the interview with him about 2 or 3 weeks ago, but because there was a card and a couple of conflicting stories or whatever, I waited until this week to release it, and it just went live yesterday. And it's Viet Do, and he's just the current. He just beat Darren Haben, who was the ex-champion of XFC. He was an amateur flyweight. And for me, flyweights is a division that's kind of in One Championship's wheelhouse. And Viet Do is from Vietnamese heritage. Now, with Martin Nguyen paving the way there, and actually in the interview, he even thanks Martin Nguyen for paving the way for Vietnamese fighters because, if anyone can get it done and get a card done over in Vietnam, it's going to be the One Championship team and Martin Nguyen. So I think you really need to look out for this guy. You can catch his fight where he claimed the title on YouTube, on XFC's YouTube page. And I dare you to go and have a look at it and beg to differ with me. He's I think he's now 5-1 or something like that as an amateur. I think he's going to have 1 or 2 more amateur fights and then he's going to go pro. But I'm calling this one early. I'm calling it really early. I liked what I seen. I was commentating on that card. So that's my shout out. Check out the interview on Ramen Chokehold and go and check out his fight over on the XFC YouTube page. So that's what I got for you, brother.
All right, Jake, who do you think that, in the coming events, there's an event in Manila, there's a few events in China, Singapore, Thailand, who you have your eye on that they could pick up and kind of, rattle the division a little bit?
So I had to have a good think about this because when it comes to One Championship and signing fighters, there's all this weird criteria that we don't know about. Like, I feel like they want to get guys who are competing in their local towns more often than not and put them against guys from overseas. There's one guy that comes to mind, and I'm trying to think about people that I've seen live. And my friend Javier Trujillo might not like this, but in his last fight in Full Metal Dojo, he came up against a guy from Iran called Mehdi Bagheri, I think his name is.
Yeah.
And he trains in Monarchy MMA in Malaysia. And I was super impressed by this guy because I've trained with Javier, and Javier is a beast. And this guy, Bet Javier, gave him his first loss. He's 4-0. He hasn't had a fight since November. And I think he was rumored to step in and fight Jimmy Crute back in Hex. And then that kind of disappeared. I'm not sure why. Wombat might know what happened there.
Yeah, so he the visa issue. He couldn't get a visa in time.
All right. Well, I'm impressed by this guy. He's in a heavier weight class. He normally competes at middleweight. Let's get him in. Let's get some big guys in one championship and get him rocking, because this guy's 4-0 and I'd like to see what he can do.
All right. Well, for me, I want to stay in my local area, because one championship does not have many Korean fighters on the roster. I think right now, currently, there's maybe 2 or 3 that actually fought at one championship events. They did sign 2 guys from that One Warrior series, but who knows what's going to happen with that, right? Who knows what's going to happen with that, if you know what I mean. And so my guy is...
We know what you mean.
My guy is Kyu-Sung Kim. He is a flyweight. Right now, currently, he fights for TFC, which is Top Fighting Championship in Korea. If you want to watch any of his fights, you could go to Top FC YouTube page and you could watch all of them. Actually, Top FC has a 24-hour fight channel that you could watch continuous fights. Their events are just continuously playing 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world. You can watch it, which is pretty nuts. You think that one championship app is good? These guys have a channel that runs 24 hours a day showing fights. Not even just on one outlet. There's a few outlets. So I'll post that in the link later on. But anyways, Kyu-Sung Kim, he is 25 years old, a young guy. He's 6 foot, but he fights in the flyweight division. Think about that.
Oh, that's crazy.
6 foot, ripped.
That's like Zabit Magomedov levels of tall.
Yeah. And he's a flyweight. And he's 25 years old, ripped, and he's 9-2 record. He has he's 9-2. He only has 1 or 2 decision wins. He only has 2 decision wins. The rest of them are all finishes. He's right now he's on a 2-fight winning streak. He's knocked out both of his opponents in TFC. His last loss was in Heat, where he was fighting for the flyweight title. And he lost by submission. But other than that, he's beaten the Kulun Fight flyweight champion. He beat him by decision. He's been in Japan. He's fought most of his fights in Korea. But this dude he's only 25 years old. So every time he comes out, his striking is better. And right now, his striking is to the level where he's understanding how to use his reach, because he's so tall compared to the smaller guys, where nobody can touch him now. And I think the flyweight division, they need someone like this. Because if he can make flyweight, by cutting weight, one championship's weight cut policy thing that they're doing, he should be able to come into this division easily and compete with the top guys. Plus, you need somebody with that power in the flyweight division. Nobody has that power. Who has the power? Who's knocking dudes out in the flyweight division right now? Can you name anybody? Everybody's a submission guy.
Yeah.
Right? Gay, submission guy. Now, Gay is not even a submission guy. He's just like a technical striker. Then you got Marias. He's a submission guy. Kaira, basically a submission guy wrestler. Reese, submission guy. You need somebody with that power. You need someone with that action that's going to come in there and face these guys. And this dude is not afraid to fight them. And you need Korean fighters because, hey, how are you going to be an Asian promotion without a lot of Koreans? Koreans are like, I'm going to tell you, Koreans are the number one the best Asian fighters. I'm going to put it out there. Even people from other countries will tell you that Koreans have the best Asian fighters, right? So this guy is just another guy that's coming along. They need to sign him and put him in there with, whoever they want to put him in there with. If you want to use him as a lamb to slaughter, use him as a lamb to slaughter, and he'll prove you wrong. Yeah, that's my guy.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. Turn that notification bell on and stay up to date with the Run Report.
I think we're done. We'll be back in, I think, 2 weeks. We're gonna preview in 2 weeks. We're gonna preview the what is it? The China card.
Battle for the Heavens.
Is it Battle of the Heavens?
I think so. That's the one.
No, it's the Pinnacle of Power.
Oh, sorry, my bad. I was getting excited.
Power. The double.
Doesn't sound as good.
Yeah, the double. What is it? It's got Marias versus Geihei for the unification flyweight title fight. Then you got the women's. Is it the strawweight?
Are they strawweight? Is it?
Yeah. So that would be a fight for Angela Lee if she did step up.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. We'll discuss those things, and I think that's the problem right now is that most people, they don't really know who is in that division. And we'll discuss that on the next podcast and kind of give you some information. So when you do watch that card, you'll understand like why these people are fighting each other and why this might not be the best fight to make in this division. But other than that, Jake, thank you for your time. Where can we find you, Jake? On social networking. Can you give us some info?
Yeah, sure. So on Twitter, Jake Nichols MMA, and you can give me a follow there.
All right, Wombat, where can we find you on social networking?
Baby, you can find me on Twitter at Wombat Jones 23 or at Ramen Chokehold, and mate, you can see yourself on Ramen Chokehold every now and then, can't we?
Oh yeah, of course, man, of course. I'm trying to be everywhere. I'm trying to spread my wings, as you can see. Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, JHK MMA. We'll probably put this all down below in the descriptions and links and everything, and you could go check those things out if you want to check it out. Other than that, let's shut it down. I'll talk to you guys next week or in a few weeks. Peace. This is the one report, the first episode. We got 3 of Asia's MMA media entities, the BodyLockMMA.com, RamyunChokehold.com, and Kumite Radio. We got Jake Nichols from the BodyLockMMA.com. He is the editor-in-chief, joining us from the jungles of Vietnam. He's been fighting all the Viet Cong all day, and he decided to join us. Thank you for joining us, Jake.
It's good to be here. Can't wait to chat about one with you guys.
Good chat.
What happened?
Where's John gone?
Is he disconnected? What happened then? Is it me or John?
No.
On slow-mo? Are we on slow-mo right now?
John, what happened? John, what are you doing?
I thought that was me.
John,
Shit.
John, what's going on?
What's going on?
What's happening? Did the North Koreans bomb you? What's happened to you?
I don't know what's happening.
Something's happened to your internet, man.
Is it my
Oh, shit.
What
Is
the
it my
fuck?
internet?
Well, I'm hearing him.
Oh, is it? Okay. My bad. Well, my
We're
internet was
waiting
jacked
for
up
you to
now.
respond. He's gone, yep, can't wait to talk about one with yous, and you're just standing. Like,
Oh, I guess
Yeah.
my internet is jacked up. My bad.
It's all good.
The other guest that we have right now.
no,
Yeah,
just start again.
Hang on a bit.
And
Hang
I'll let
on a second.
Wait up.
That was so good.
This is going to be a perfect. What do they call it? Outtake or whatever.
Hey, you should put that at the end.
Yeah,
Put it
yeah,
in
yeah.
the- at the end.
That's super awkward for me. I'm like, yeah, I can't wait to chat. And then nothing. Donuts.
All right.
Crickets.
All right. Let me do it again.
Whenever you're ready. Don't fuck this one up, all right? It
I'm
costs money. It costs money.
No, it doesn't. Just fucking have to slice it and shit. Let's go. Ready? All right.